Hey guys, welcome back to Homesteading Off the Grid and another morning ramble. I'm going to start the ramble here today by giving a shout out to one of our subscribers named Sarah S. Sarah S. left a very powerful comment on the video yesterday I made. I pinned it to the top of that video. Sarah's words here are perhaps some of the wisest words I've ever read, so I want to share them with you. The video yesterday, and I'll attach that to the end of this one in case you missed it. It's titled How I Chose Life Rather Than to Become a Statistic of the PTSD Suicide Epidemic. And I did that on the day that Veterans Day was on Sunday, but I guess on Monday they observed it so government workers could have a day off. And so I made that on the Monday observation of Veterans Day. Talked about some of the challenges I faced, and I was very personal in that video. And that video really ended up being about estrangement from loved ones, particularly children, the dearest people to our hearts and our lives, who leave our lives without dying. They're still alive. They're somewhere. Sometimes we don't know where. We don't know how they're doing. We wonder. That's what that video evolved into, and a lot of folks on this channel have mentioned that they live with this, and so sharing their turmoil. I decided to finally open up about that because, frankly, that's not doing so was what was leading me dangerously down the dark path of doing something that, taking the permanent fix for a temporary problem. So Sarah S. and a lot of folks commented on that video. Make sure to go watch that if you missed it. A lot of folks were very supportive. I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. Thank you for being courageous enough to share your personal stories. Dozens of people shared their stories about their current estrangement and past estrangements from their children, and those stories helped me as much as you folks say my story and finally opening up about that helped you. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I want to read what Sarah S. wrote, because Sarah not only did her comment here help me, well, it helped me feel better. It comforted me. I learned from it, and it inspired me. I feel inspired. I get inspired by so many of you folks who say I inspire you. You say thank you to me. I can't thank you enough. You'll never know how much you inspire me. And Sarah S., her comment, what I'm going to read now with no further ado, has inspired me to get out here and do something today on the homestead that I put off for nearly a month. I'm going to tell you what that is after I read what Sarah wrote, and I'm going to tell you how I view it differently now. Sarah has changed the way I look at things, and this is amazing. So Sarah S. wrote in regard to the, avoiding the PTSD veteran suicide video, which is really about estrangement from children. She said, I'm 10 years older than you, and one of the hardest things I've learned in life is that I can't control anything but me. I used to plan the day, the week, the month, the year, and even my entire life. Then my sister died, and I learned we don't always get to grow old with the ones we love. Then my husband left me, and I learned that loving someone the best we know how isn't always good enough for them. Then, out of the blue, my youngest child stopped talking to me. This last brought me to my knees, and I learned that sometimes we have to grieve for the living. Life lessons can be amazing, or they can be brutal. The past number of years have been amazing. I plan for today. I focus on what I have right here and now. And I've never been happier. My daughter came back, and when your children are ready, they will come back too. Sarah, I hope so. I hope you're right. I'm glad your daughter came back to you, and thank you so much for these words. And Sarah's words here can be applied to our lives, not just if we are estranged from people we love, not just if plans don't go as we'd planned. I've implemented a lot of what Sarah was talking about here when she was talking about focusing on what I have right here and right now, and that's, I talk about my love for my wife dearly and my son Daniel. for many years, and I mentioned this, I talked about this at length in the video yesterday, so I'm not going to rehash it today, but for many years I was afraid to give them my love because of the love I'd given others. The love that is now, it's not dormant, it's alive, and it's as much on fire now as it ever was, but it's not currently being shared because these folks are currently not in my life. So I became very trepidatious. I was afraid to, as I mentioned in the video yesterday and one in the past, I was afraid to do anything with my son alone out of the fear that one day I might show up at home and he's gone and I don't know where he is and I never see him again. I had to overcome these fears. But Sarah's words reached out to me more than just in regards to my relationships with my wife and my son and planning for the future. The here and now, talking about being happy here and now. Let me tell you what I've been putting off for the last month on the homestead and why I've been putting it off. If you subscribe to our channel, you know I love trees. I'm not very good really at keeping them alive. The ones that I kind of don't know are there do better than the ones that I do know are there, and the ones that I have any hand in trying to propagate or grow. I'll tell you, nothing excites me more than walking around through this uncut meadow or somewhere on the property and finding maybe one of these eastern red cedars or loblolly pines that I didn't even know that was there, and then now it's 5 or 6 feet tall. Last year we did have some success with oak trees by simply planting acorns. We did the same thing with hickory nuts, and now we've had some success. We've got some hickory trees that are a couple of feet tall. Most of what we plant died, just like our vegetables. Okay, people said I'm the worst homesteader on YouTube. I've never disagreed with them, but I keep trying, and I keep trying to get better because that's how I kind of roll in life, and so I'm doing it with the homesteading thing. But this year I wanted to plant chestnuts. I wanted to start growing chestnut trees from nuts, and I wanted to start growing walnut trees from nuts. I have plenty of walnuts. As you know, if you follow the channel, we've got tons of walnut trees. They have had a very heavy mass this year. I've set some aside in a pile down there for planting. And then we went out and collected some chestnuts we found on some chestnut tree one day while we were having chicken for lunch and watching the storm roll in. So I've got these nuts. I've got this space. I've weeded out some space in my garden to plant these nuts, but I've not done it. I've not done it because, Sarah, as Sarah mentioned, I too plan the day, the month, the week, the year. And now, I'm getting ready to turn 45 here in a couple weeks. And I look at so much of my life that I planned that didn't work out according to plan. The 3 people I talked about yesterday, my 2 daughters and my other son, when they were little, we'd always talk and fantasize about having a farm here in Virginia someday. We lived in one of those little cookie cutter subdivisions. All the houses looked the same. They were right on top of each other. We talked about having a farm someday. Well, that never happened with them yet. Well, I have that farm now with Dearly and Daniel and their bedrooms waiting on them should they ever want to come occupy them, and they're fully furnished. But I think about them and I think, wow, this is what we always wanted, and they're not here to share it with me. So what's the point of planting a tree that's going to be 30 or 40 years until it matures? We can think about the expressions, the saying, the mottos. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today. Or, the quotation about how a society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they'll never get to enjoy. That's all well and good, but when you're sitting here, when you're the guy or when you're the girl like Sarah S., who made the best laid plans, and you saw that no matter how hard you tried, no matter how much Sarah loved her husband, he left. No matter how much of a good mom Sarah felt she was being to her youngest child, for a time her daughter left. And I look at my children here. I go off and fight a war overseas and come home and my family's gone. Our best laid plans don't always work out, so why plant trees? Well, Sarah has the answer for us right here when she says, I focus on what I have right here and now, and I've never been happier. These are the key words out of everything Sarah shared with us. And again, Sarah, thank you for opening up about your personal hardships to help people like me and other folks who will watch this video grow. But what I got most out of that is the here and the now and our happiness. We can only control us, like Sarah says in the beginning of her comment. The fact is, I enjoy planting trees. I love planting trees. I enjoy the hour to an hour and a half I spend out there. I'll be getting the mushy black part, which used to be the green part, off the walnuts, digging the trench, putting them in the trench, maybe lining the trench with some grass clippings, maybe not, maybe putting some over for a mulch after I've buried it. I enjoy doing that. That's my here and now. Shade I may never get to enjoy. I'm 45, and like Sarah learned, and she's got 10 years on me, I'm at the point now to where I know I have no control over whether I'll get to enjoy the shade or not. I don't know if my son Daniel, who is here, will get to enjoy that shade or not. We might lose a homestead. We might decide to sell and move somewhere else. Tragedy might strike and take him or I from the earth. And my neighbor lost another big, giant, beautiful oak the other day to a windstorm. I might grow the perfectly shaped trees. They're true and straight, and a windstorm might come and take them. There's so many factors going into whether or not I may ever enjoy that shade, or even if my son will enjoy the shade. But I enjoy planting the trees, and that's my here and now. So today, I'm going to plant trees. Sarah S., thank you so much for your comment. Thank you for your support. Everybody, thank you for being with us here on the channel. And here's your beautiful parting shot of the homestead.